Detective Superintendent Schenk. We need to know where he is.
Look, I know he's in prison.
Except he's not in prison.
Listen, some heroes wear capes, some wear coats, and I know a lot has been made about your coat, but I'm actually curious. I mean, it's been a couple of years since season 5. You're now in this film. What does it actually do for you as an actor when you put that coat on? I understand a bigger budget. You had 20 coats in this filming this movie, but what does it do for you to put on the coat? Do you look in the mirror? Do you sort of like...
It definitely gives me a stance. Like, I put the coat on and I walk a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, people go to me, Luther walk. I'm like, really, Luther walk? Oh, yeah. Because I sort of do this thing with my shoulders and my hands in my pocket. It makes me move a certain way. But now it's really sort of like it's a bit of a uniform. I want to say that, you know, I think the film gives us a sort of new beginning. And I want to understand whether we can do a version without the coat. Will he still be Luther? That is I know, shock horror, but you know, we started the film without the coat and seems to still be him, but then when you see him in the coat, you're like, ah. So who knows? We'll see.
All right, so what's your dream wardrobe then for Luther? If you could put it out there and put him in anything, what are you putting him in?
Well, you know, I don't know. Whatever it'll be, he won't have a different costume every day. He's the kind of guy who's going to wear the same shirt every day.
I want to see him in Miami in like neon.
Neon? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, Luther in your shirt perhaps would be interesting, right? That would be fascinating.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I know you had a hand in casting Andy Serkis, from what I understand. It was your suggestion. And I'm wondering for you, what does it do for you playing Luther when you're looking across David versus Alice? Can you sort of compare and contrast what they bring out?
I mean, both Andy and Ruth Wilson are just phenomenal character actors, full stop, that really embody. And, you know, for me as an actor, those are the people that really raise my game up to sort of, you know, but I'm also like, I'm equally as Idris fascinated in Andy and Ruth as Luther is in Alice and David. You know, there's a real fascination to who they are. And I think that's what drives John is like, I don't know why you're doing this, but I want to find out and I want to understand what makes you tick. And that's something that I find so really interesting to keep revisiting whenever I play John Luther is like, he needs to get under the skin of the person he's chasing.
And I know you said in the past, you don't like to revisit characters. You obviously like to revisit this one, but obviously when you have a film this time, what I loved is seeing Luther in action. And I don't want to spoil anything, so maybe we could just talk about if you could do like a little bit of a breakdown of the prison breakout scene, sort of what it demanded of you. You've joked before that playing Luther isn't fun just because you're cold. It's usually demanding. This took it to another level.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, look, in the TV show, it didn't feel the quite sort of film language or TV show language to have these big fight action sequences. He's not an action star. He's a policeman, right? But ultimately in the film, when we could broaden the lens a little bit, it felt really quite right to see him get into some scuffles. And that's what I'm going to call the prison scene for now. It was a scuffle, but it really is designed with the aesthetic of the show, which is messy and raw and visceral and surprising, you know?
I just spoke to Neil and he told me because of that little teaser at the end, he already knows where the series is going. So what was your reaction when he told you where he wants to take it?
You know, if I'm really honest, we sat down and huddled and thought about where could it go. And so I got an email and he showed me where it was going to go and I was blown. Like, oh, I mean, that man needs a hug. Neil, he needs a hug. He needs some love in his life because I don't know where he gets it from. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, he cooks up some darkness, all right.
I wanted to know if you'd see in me. Because that is who you are, isn't it?
Congratulations on another amazing villain. You've created so many iconic villains in your career, from Snoke, and I know Gollum, there's a legend, and you've talked about it, how when you were creating the voice of Gollum, the inspiration was your cat coughing up a fur ball. So with this character, with David Roby, I'd love to do like a little bit of a breakdown into how you got into this character, sort of creating the physicality of him, from the great round bush blowout to the lenses to, I know you were singing the Supremes in the car. So if you could break down first the physical aspects of how you became this character.
So David is a very isolated, lonely individual who actually doesn't exist in his own right. And that is what drives him in a way. He cannot communicate. He cannot connect with humanity. The only way that he can really connect is through voyeurism, is through observing, through people's devices in their own home, by watching them. And he spends hour after hour after hour watching people file their nails, pick their teeth, floss their teeth, polish their shoes, maybe indulge in things that we can't talk about on, primetime television. But he basically sucks people's lives out of what he's watching all of these screens, lots and lots and lots of screens. And then, from what they wear, he has no sense of style. He doesn't know what he should wear. He only picks items from what he sees, and so it's like a catalog. It's like a kind of Tinder swipe. He's sort of watching what's going on, and then he takes these things and even the hairstyle are completely inappropriate with the rest of what he's wearing. It's all put together. He's a construct. He doesn't exist.
Now I'm wondering who he was spying on that gave him the hair inspiration. I'm like thinking like Barry Manilow or something.
Somebody said Siegfried and Roy, so that's not far off actually. But yeah, Barry Manilow, David Soul.
He in one scene, and I don't want to give away the scene, but he has a kind of a hoodie on. And I mean this in the nicest possible way. He reminded me of a rat in a sewer. And there's a real duality of him, right? There's that sort of CEO vibe that he gives. But for you as an actor, and I know when you said when you read the script, it was like so dark, you almost didn't take the role. So sort of that rat-like presence for you as an actor, can you talk about inhabiting that sort of that character, what you had to do to shake it off at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a point where he becomes this sort of his version of a homeless person, and again, everything's studied. So he doesn't climb into the character. He just observes a certain shape of how someone carries themselves and then tries to mimic it and doesn't quite pull it off. But so that becomes his way of being able to be out in the open and be in plain sight, hiding in plain sight he is like an actor in a sense, but not a very good one. So yeah, that whole thing of embodying someone is just learned behavior.
It's my understanding that Idris was the one that recommended you for the role, which I think is lovely. So I'm wondering for you, this is such an iconic character for him. So when you are in character and you are staring down Idris Elba in character, what do you think that he brings to the role that makes this character endure and now have its own film?
I mean, Idris is a phenomenal actor. And in this role that he has owned for 10 years, I can only say being on set with him, and I've always wanted to work with him as well. That's the other thing. And our paths have sort of crossed before. But to be with him in this zone where he's so unpredictable as the character, but also Idris embodying that character is so unpredictable as well, and so present and in the moment. It was very big, sort of. He was very magnetic as this role, and it's just great to see it go from what was an exceptional TV series to now this big platform as a big movie. He really owns it in a quite a profound way.
I know when you read the script, you said you had to shower afterwards and almost didn't take the role. So at the end of each day, or maybe at the end of the role, how many showers were you taking daily playing this role? And can you sort of talk about the physicality? Because you and Idris this is a bigger, it's a film now, it's a bigger scope. There's a lot of action. So sort of, getting down and dirty with Idris and playing those physical scenes.
Yeah, I mean, we had a number of there's flashpoints in the movie where the two characters go head to head, and the stunts there's some pretty visceral kind of fighting that goes on, but also what we wanted to work out was, I mean, Idris is all about pure strength and muscle, and he's a kickboxer, he's a trained martial artist in real life. For David Roby, again, kind of wanted something which was passionless in a way, in the way that he fights. It's sort of disassociated in a way, like he doesn't put energy into it. He sort of steps outside of himself and watches himself fight, and so it's more like with a minimum amount of effort. It sort of sucks energy out of people. That's all he does really. He sucks energy out of people.
I am enjoying myself.
Let the nightmare come. Because I'm ready.
This was horrifying, terrifying. Most horror movies don't scare me, but this scares me. And I think the reason is, and it's something that you've touched on in the series, our deepest fears as humans play out in front of our eyes, whether it's somebody under our bed that goes back to a childhood fear, or in this case, David Roby, where it's our deepest, darkest secrets are exposed. And what would we do to keep that secret? So I'm wondering, for you, Neil, when you were writing this, was that something you sort of had in mind? Like, what would really scare somebody? And do you think that it's going to create a whole conversation about people talking about, well, what would yours be? Because as soon as the film ended, I thought, oh my gosh, if my own secret ever was exposed, what would I do? What would I have done in that situation?
So yeah, you are quite right, but it's not quite as grown up and professional and calculated as you make it sound. I'm the world's most disorganized writer, and all I can write about is what frightens me. And the idea that someone like David Roby might be out there watching what I do, or my loved ones, or my friends, or my colleagues, I find quietly terrifying.
And I understand you got the idea for it at the end of season 5.
Yeah, I was walking, Jamie directed season 5, and we were in some tumble down, broken, derelict part of London in January, and it was very cold, and I was going home, and I said goodbye to Jamie, said goodbye to the casting crew, and I walked with Idris to his trailer. And we were talking about the movie, as we often did. When was the time right? And is the time right now after this show? And as Idris opened his trailer door, I went, he escapes prison to solve a crime. So that was when the idea came to me on the set.
Okay, I'm gonna circle back to that at the end of this interview. But Jamie, for you, I mean, you're given a little bit of a Netflix budget in this one. You're creating a film. This is a bigger thing. You shot in Piccadilly Circus. You went international. You got to shoot underground in a place apparently you haven't nobody's seen since the 70s. So can you talk about, there's such epic scenes, maybe particularly the Piccadilly Circus scene, and sort of just creating, just taking that, what we love about Luther, and putting it on a much bigger scale. How thrilling was that for you as a director, and how challenging was that scene?
Extraordinarily thrilling. It was amazing. I mean, the thing is, you just hit the most important point, is what we learn about Luther in those moments, because it would be too easy to get lost in the maelstrom of the piece to forget the very reason that we were there in the first place. I mean, the thing is, from director, I love television, and directing television for 20 years, you have to do all your work within a really concentrated period of time. All the prep, all the detail that goes into prep in a really conflated place. And then Netflix gave us this resource to actually have all the tools to prep a sequence like Piccadilly Circus that we needed, including virtual cameras to enable me to stand in the middle of Piccadilly Circus and prep. But obviously I was in Shepperton when I did it. I think it was extraordinary, and it was a great gauntlet. And it said to me, you know, all the stuff you've learned over 20 years, now you get to play, but you get to play understanding the central, most important part of this sequence is John Luther himself. So all those extreme roads lead back to that heart. Look, it was amazing. I think I didn't realize in my first feature-length story I'd get chance to have fun in this sandpit with an IP and a character that I already love.
Right.
You know, so you know, it was great. I don't know, I'm running out of, this is how I'm so excited by the opportunity that this gave me that I've run out of words. And that's why it's great you got Neil Cross sitting next to you.
Well, Neil, I'm going to circle back to what I asked you before. So at the end of this film, since you got inspired for this film from season 5, at the end of this film, it sets up a whole new possibility for Luther. It's very cheeky, that last scene. I was thrilled with it. I was like, oh my gosh, where could they go? He could go fully international, a new job opportunity. Do you already have an idea of where this is going to go?
A, cheeky is the best possible description of that, I think. And B, Very much so, yes.